We're fighting a battle, we're singing the same song, trying to find someone who cares as much as we do. We're climbing the ladder, while we're sinking in this boat, trying to find someone who cares.
Okay, everybody, we're back with Babble Scribbler, which is the podcast-y type show thing. Today I have with me Low23, and we are going to be talking about the hiatus and the difference between live and dead fandoms. So, Low, would you like to tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Hello, I'm Low23. I am an artist in the fandom. I like to help touch up people's photos or artwork regarding towards what it is. I consider myself just an image remixer. So, if you ever need an image touched up, I can always help out with that.
Hello actually did the background art to An Apple a Day and Puppet to Her Fame, which have both been on my channel. So if you like the look of those, you can come and talk to him, because he was the mastermind behind them. Okay, so we're going to talk about the hiatus and how we've all handled it, because it's been, I believe it's been the longest hiatus from season to season of Pony. And, well, almost, if not entirely, a year between series. And towards the middle of it, we didn't really have a guarantee for a while that there was going to be a fifth series. So people sort of coped in different ways. The productivity of the fandom in some areas went up. The productivity of some areas of the fandom went down and crashed and burned. And now we are right on the brink of season 5. So how did you cope then, Hello?
I always coped regarding towards keeping multiple interests. Like, I'm always at least a lurker in many fandoms, like Doctor Who, Gravity Falls, pro wrestling, and I'm always
interesting mix.
I know. Oh, I know it's dorky, but it's fun. And
that's the way that we can all be characterized. It's dorky, but it's fun.
Oh yeah, and I always keep myself busy, entertained with many different mediums, or it's like TV shows I'm watching and stuff like that. And it's always keeping yourself busy. I think what comes down to, like a lot of people do during the hiatus, it's always like, oh, this fun thing over here, and then there's this fun thing. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I must admit that I've been super busy since the hiatus started. That I've noticed quite a lot of people seem to have gotten more creative since the hiatus started. It's almost as if, because of the lack of new input, they felt the need that they've got to channel their enthusiasm and their energy, and so we're getting these big elaborate projects starting up, and seeing more and more big projects come to fruition, like Bride of Discord has recently finished, and Dash Academy is due to start at some point, and lots of other things are keeping going. I don't know if they would have done as well as they have if it hadn't been for the hiatus. I mean, Bride of Discord in particular, it has done astronomically well. But it started, I think, during season 4? I might be wrong on that, but it definitely started during a season. And yet its popularity skyrocketed during the hiatus. And I have to say, I think that was quite possibly because of the lack of canon to sate people's interests, and therefore they turned to the fandom.
I always say the hiatus is always the best time regarding towards when you want to get into the show and get into the fandom, because you have that nice big gap where you can really catch yourself up on, especially if you're limited with time, if you're working a full-time job, and so on and so forth. And I think it's always the most insane but fun times in the fandom is during that. And it gets even crazier sometimes, even when the show is on hiatus, but I always love the fandom regardless, whether it's on hiatus or we're in the middle of a season, because it's always just great to check Equestria Daily or my art feeds and see all the insane stuff going on. And I'm like, this is why I love this fandom, for you crazy bastards.
Oh, yes. Did you get into it during a hiatus then, or were you into it during a season?
I got into it after season 2. It was after season 2 just ended, and I was hearing all about it on the Chan sites and YouTube and Reddit, and I was like, huh, okay. And at first I was skeptical, but then again, coming from a lot of male demographic, from a male perspective, we're always like, say, you gotta be man, gotta be manly, stuff like that society idea of what it is to be a man, and like
it's hegemonic masculinity, this sort of accepted status quo about what it is to be a man, which, to be honest, hegemony changes all the time depending on how society evolves, so it's a little bit of a misnomer. But yeah, it's this idea of, well, boys don't cry, you must be buff to be a man, don't wear makeup, all that kind of bullshit. Actually, weirdly, at work today, I was speaking to a class, and we ended up talking about parenting, and I asked them, well, okay, what do you think good parenting is? And they brought up on their own that parents shouldn't force gender roles on children. I was quite shocked. I wasn't expecting that, and we ended up having quite a good debate about it. Well, we took a vote, and I said, do you think that parents should encourage girls only to play with girls' toys, or boys only to play with boys' toys, or do you think there should be some crossover? And all bar one person in the room said, let them play with whatever they want. Who cares if a boy wants a Barbie doll for Christmas? Who cares if a girl wants, I don't know, an action man, or scale electric cars, or or some kind of fighting game? They said, who cares, as long as they're healthy and they're happy. Mm-hmm. I thought it was quite nice that a new generation is not afraid to say it.
I think it's because it's just a lot of I think it could be much more. We're definitely in a much more progressive mindset regarding towards it. I mean, you can see it in our society right now too. I mean, the whole idea of becoming more open to homosexual marriage and the idea of transphobia is slowly dissipating. So it's slowly changing, which I think is a good idea, because the worst crime I think as a person is just not to be open-minded. And I'm like, always be open-minded, be always open to new things, because you'll definitely have a lot more fun in life.
I'm not sure if I'd use the word dissipated, but definitely becoming more accepted. It comes down to that idea of I may not agree with, this is not my point of view, I'll say now, this is an old phrase, like I may not agree with your right, I may not agree with your right to say something. No, I may not agree with what you're saying, but I will fight for your right to say something. That would work so much better if I hadn't fucked up the punchline.
Oh no, that's fine. And I agree with it, and I definitely do agree with it, because I'm always about freedom of speech, or it's either all okay or nothing's okay. And even if the jerk who's spouting off hate speech is over there in the corner, and I'm like, okay, he's saying something rude and nasty, I'm going to let him speak, and then, but it doesn't prevent you from being able to call a person out on their BS when they're being a jerk.
And I think that the Brony fandom is quite good on that. Is very welcoming. Once you get past the initial, what the fuck? Because when I first got into the fandom, it was around about the same time you did, by the sound of things, because I watched the first two-parter with the Nightmare Moon episodes, and I watched them on YouTube the day after they'd premiered. And I remember not being very impressed, and I left it alone for a great many months. And then I came back to it, having found Cupcake's fan art and and Brony Dance Party's Rainbow Factory music video. And I went looking then, and it was literally, I think it was a couple of days before Canterlot Wedding premiered. And I got into it there. So I was quite lucky there was this surge of fandom enthusiasm on the tail end of this two-parter that everybody seemed to both love and hate at the same time. And there were debates, there was discussion, there was a huge influx of creativity. And I can genuinely remember looking at my computer screen and saying out loud, I went in on that. I want to be a part of that.
Oh, I was like that too. I mean, I really turned to the fandom because it was nice to really see a section of the internet be genuinely nice to each other, be genuinely encouraging of our talents, rather than forcing this, hive mind ideas on each other, or like, oh no, you're horrible X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, it's nice to get into a fandom that was really positive.
I will say mostly. Yeah, because when I went from that moment, sorry, interrupting you.
Oh no, that's okay.
Well, when I went from that moment of looking at the computer screen and saying I really want in on that, it was actually a good couple of months before I got any kind of traction within the fandom. And I don't mean like doing readings, because I didn't do readings for ages, but just generally being accepted by people around. Because I actually got told, and I'll remember this quote, it's emblazoned on the inside of my eyelids, "Fuck off, you're a girl, we're fixing your shit." No, right. That was nice of you.
Classy.
And that was on a DeviantArt page that I was commenting on some fan art, and I can't even remember what it was now. It was this beautiful piece of fan art, and I made a comment and how it reminded me of the G1 ponies that I used to watch when I was little, and I really adored it. And that was the response. I thought, woo! And that was some flames that burned the inside of my nostril hair.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the internet. You're always going to get a jerk who's going to have to make himself feel better by putting other people down. It's unfortunate that this mindset is so prevalent on the net for how much information is out there. I think it could have been more this, definitely this transitional period, because a lot of people were, like on the chans, it was originally supposed to be this ironic joke, haha, we're like in a little girl's show, and then it became a lot more legitimate and sincere about it. And I was reading all these stories of like how it affected them, like it helped it out with people with depression and stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, the show has something to it then, if it can really help people out of a dark time in their life.
Yeah, it's like pastel Prozac.
yeah.
But I can understand that. Right about the time that I got into it, I was just about to start a new job, and I was nervous as shit. And I felt a lot better from seeing things within the fandom that summer, and it was bizarre. Things like silly little PMVs and music videos, and by today's standards, the fan created content was not as good compared to what is available today, but it was so new and so fresh and so invigorating, because I'd been in a couple of fandoms long term at that point, and I didn't decide to move fandoms, but it kind of turned out I was really ready to move, and this one came along at just the right time. I mean, had you been in any fandoms before? Because we're sort of moving over from hiatus now into live and dead fandoms. Had you been in any fandoms before Bronies?
I've always been in lifelong fandoms. I mean, I've always been big involved into the wrestling community, and either be from the mainstream WWE to the indie scene, stuff like that, and chatting with fellow wrestling fans, and it is definitely it's very a weird transition. Very this.
Grown men in speedos to ponies. Actually, I suppose that the new comic has got ponies and speedos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's Cheerily becomes a wrestler. Yeah.
And I like how, that they recognize that this absurdity, but like you just go with it. And I'm always used, and I guess with wrestling you get conditioned to the idea of like, when you think about wrestling, when you logically say out the stuff that you just watched on screen, you're like, this is insane. But if this is not entertaining.
I could say that I came at ponies from anime fandoms, and that can definitely be characterized then. This is insane. I have no idea what's going on, but it's fun.
Why did you decide to jump fandoms? Where you wanted to jump into the Brony fandom?
I didn't jump so much, just kind of segued into it, but I just like the fact the fandom community was so active, because the fandom community I was in immediately prior to this one was a mixture between Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy VII and Yu-Gi-Oh! And with Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy VII, the Kingdom Hearts games had left me behind. That after Kingdom Hearts 2, I was pretty much done. But I really, really liked the fandom. The fandom was so creative, and it was around about the time that the new games were starting to segue into the fandom a bit more, and I couldn't really keep up. Final Fantasy VII was fine, because the last Final Fantasy VII game we had at that point was Crisis Core in 2008, so I was all up to date with my canon, and I could have great fun with fandom. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the same kind of thing, that the show, the actual original series, finished in 2004, and that was always the continuity that I stuck to, not the various spin-offs. So with Final Fantasy VII and Yu-Gi-Oh! It was easier to be in it long term because the canon didn't change. So you kind of became a niche, that you found your place within the fandom and just kind of set up barbed wire around the edges and put up guard dogs and said, this is my turf, fuck off. Whereas, like with Kingdom Hearts, I couldn't really do that. The fandom was outgrowing me. So ponies came along at that point where I was nicely entrenched in Final Fantasy VII and Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was so comfortable writing those characters, because I was actually, up until ponydom, all I ever did was write fanfiction. Never did anything else, apart from a few really bad drawings on my DeviantArt from when I did Dragon Ball Z. Oh no, they're terrible. They're like I think Danny Phantom and Dragon Ball Z. I've got some sketches I did there when I used to be a classroom supervisor, and I used to sit there bored out of my skull, waiting for the next paper aeroplane to fly at my head. So I would draw these little things on the side of my notebook, and now they're somewhere on DeviantArt. But literally all I did was write fanfiction, and I was so used to writing those characters, I was so comfortable writing those characters, that the idea of branching beyond that and trying to write characters I'd never written before, from a continuity that I'd never been in before, it really stretched my brain a bit, and I really enjoyed it. I look back now, and at some of the early stuff I wrote, and it is utter bullcrap. It's really, really bad. There's some of them are still on my fanfiction page, but there's one that's about 60 pages long, lurking on my hard drive, and I loved it to pieces when I was writing it, and I think I actually did put a couple of chapters of that one out. It was called Patchwork, and I had all these plans for Patchwork to like be the next Cupcakes, and like everybody does. Everybody comes into the fandom and has an idea of a famous fanfic that they want to emulate. That was no different.
Mm-hmm.
But going beyond that it reawakened my love of fandom. I became less passive than I had been. So how about you then?
I'd say I was always part of communities, because so I was like, okay. So at first I was very questionable regarding towards the idea of like pastel-colored ponies. What an odd idea. So I did like anybody did. I binged on YouTube, and I was just like, why am I smiling? This show is so awesome. And I was just like, but I'm a guy. I'm not supposed to like this. What the heck? And and I was just like, because with a guy, with being a guy, you're always like, I have to be this muscle-bound meathead, no emotion, boys can't cry, like you said before. And I think it's like, I always said that's bullshit. Pardon my French, but, I was like,
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that's given birth to the He for She campaign. The He for She campaign. Yeah. Emma Watson started it, I think it was the United Nations. If anybody's listening to this one, go and check out the Emma Watson speech on the United Nations conference on the He for She campaign. Sorry, interrupting.
Oh no, that's fine. That is fine. And so it was, I was like, oh wow, this is new. This is pastel-colored ponies. Screw it. Might as well jump in head first and have fun with this. And so I started getting back into my artwork with GIMP and Photoshop, and I was just like, okay, I'm getting back into my groove. And
so had you fallen out of your groove at that point then?
I'd say I just got bored of it. At first it was, I was always a part of the Internet Signature form site when I got really fancy with GIF format. Like, example, I'd always do images and embed like part of a wrestler's Titantron into the signature to make it look flashy and stuff like that. And I did video editing where I do like all these matches and then do it, highlight it, splice it all together, and turn it into a GIF format and put it up online and stuff like that. And I got decently good at Photoshop, and then I guess I just fell out of it. Like how a lot of other people just fall out of something after they've done it for so long.
Yeah.
And then I picked it back up, and I was just like, man, I missed this. This is awesome. It got me out of my shell a lot regarding towards whenever you put something up, you're always putting something of yourself out online, saying, this is a part of me for everyone else to take a look at and judge. Yeah. And so there's always something nerve-wracking about that when you're on that submit button, and you're just like, oh, what are they going to say? What are they going to say? And then I find it on Equestria Daily, and I'm just like, wow, I'm on Equestria Daily again. Wow, I did not... It's always kind of that artist, self-defeatist type of attitude with a lot of artists who, I'm the same way, I'm like, oh god, I need to be able to draw to be legitimate art and stuff like that. But, I think it's kind of the same thing with a lot of people, And I'd say it's always better to be overly concerned with your work than be overly confident. Because when you're overly confident, you can come off as a jerk to some people, and that can drive people away.
Yeah, I must admit, the arrogance is a real turn-off. I don't know if anybody else has feelings on that, but apparently you agree with me that people who are too confident and immediately assume that they're the best at something, or make not even attempt at modesty. Yeah, that rubs me up the wrong way. I don't know if it's like just a personality thing or the way I was raised or something like that, but someone announcing that they are the best thing since sliced bread makes me want to burn them in a toaster.
a bit graphic, but I can see that.
I've come from Grimdark. The chat before this one was all about Grimdark, so you just be careful that I didn't go into too much detail from Cupcakes.
Fair enough. And with that, those legendary fics, and oh dear, what 4chan could produce, oh my.
Yeah, I know, Wooten keeps trying to get me to read some of them going, ha 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 ha, no.
Oh no, I mean, they're just pointless shock value. I see with some of those fics. I mean, if you're going to always use gore and blood, you want to have a point to it. You want to have it where it's going to emphasize something like...
it's got to be well written.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's always how you use it, too. Example, like, I always look, if you want to use Grimdark, I always look to Fallout Equestria and say, this is a fic series that's not only incredibly long, but did Grimdark really well, where it really helped build this world and build these characters and why you cared for little Pip and her journey.
See, I've not read Fallout Equestria, actually. The furthest I got was 2 chapters in, based on the Equestrian Broadcasting Service, I think. But they did a radio play version that it only got 2 episodes in, and I was a bit disappointed because I was looking forward to learning more about Fallout, and it seemed to be all gung-ho and ready, and the episodes just kind of dried up. And I thought I was bad with Heroic Tale only putting out 2 episodes, but I'm one person, writing and editing the whole bloody thing. They're a group, so I was a bit disappointed that there wasn't more, because it's quite good.
I mean, it's just sad. I mean, it happens all the time in fandoms when projects you really get excited for just fall through. I mean, recently, like with
Journey of
the
Spark.
like the DMCA with Jan, and how it's really basically stopped all his pony work, unfortunately, and that the guys
Jan Animations.
With this stuff, and just really good animation, and just like, that's so sad. I'm glad he's still getting work, and I'm glad he's built up such a marvelous profile, showing this guy's incredible talent with Flash and just animation in general. But it's just sad.
Because he was one guy working on his own as well.
Ooh, and it was just impressive to see this guy's stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, the animators from MLP and Hasbro did not have any part of this? This was one guy? That was impressive.
Yeah, that was... I got the same feeling watching Jan Animation stuff, and this is quite poignant, as I did watching Monty Ohm's stuff in Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. And that's especially sad, because he did the Dead Fantasy series. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
It's an amazing series that one guy animated it all. And it's all the female characters from various different Final Fantasy games and Kairi from Kingdom Hearts fighting against the lady characters from Dead or Alive, and it was so well animated, and it had just reached a crux of storytelling, and unfortunately earlier this year Monty Ohm died, and it'll never be finished.
Oh,
and
that's so sad.
But it's really impressive. If you ever get a chance, you should watch it, because it's really impressive anyway with how well made it is, but your jaw will hit the floor when you realise not only was this one guy, but this was one guy in 2008. And the technology has jumped forward so much since then. I mean, you know the technology has jumped forward. You are a tech head. The conversation that we were having just before this podcast, I understood 1 word in every 3 that he was saying. And he couldn't see me, and I was just sort of nodding and smiling and thinking, what the fuck?
Oh no, it's fine. And if you want another good one-man series, I recommend checking out. It depends on how well you get Dragon Ball Z, and it's called.
How would I get Dragon Ball Z? So yeah, I get Dragon Ball Z.
Awesome. It's called Super Mario Brothers Z. Mm-hmm. It's all done with sprite animation. And this guy's stuff is fantastic. It is just this custom sprite animation, and it's just these characters move so fast and so fluid, and I'm just like, my God, this is impressive. This must have taken this guy months, and rightfully so, because each episode took like a year to come out due to how long they were with the story and the characters, but how good the fights were too. And these are just 2D sprites.
It's amazing sometimes what fandoms can put out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I wonder, I'm going to pose this question to you since you've been in a couple of fandoms. Which do you reckon are the more creative then? Fandoms that are alive or fandoms that are dead? And just for sake of clarification for listeners, by that I mean fandoms that are alive means canons that are still ongoing, so a book series that hasn't yet finished, or like MLP where you've got new series coming, a movie series where there's the promise of new movies or book tie-ins or that kind of thing. And a dead fandom is where canon has finished, it's ended, it's had a finite ending, whether or not it got cancelled like Sonic Sat AM, or whether or not it just reached its natural conclusion, like 99% of all anime series.
I always say it's got to be probably one that has still an active official canon being released by its main source. I always say it's got to at least have a little bit of a leg up regarding towards that enthusiasm around of creating content. Because, there's still this, and this plugs in here, and this goes here, regarding towards the to the canon and fanon that people have. And I always feel that it's always, example like the Harry Potter fandom, it definitely was a lot more active when those movies were coming out, and it's like, oh, what are the changes from the book here and there, and stuff like that. I always feel it's always been a little bit more active regarding towards if the show is continuing or not.
Yeah.
And it's
the Harry Potter fan in particular, that was most active around 2002, 2003 when the books were at their height as well. The movies were just starting, and up to, I think it was 2006 the last book came out, and it was astronomically popular then. So, yeah.
It was huge. You were hearing all in the news all the time, and I was like, wow, this fandom has catched ground. And I found it was kind of unfortunate that Harry Potter fandom unfortunately got kind of the brunt regarding towards mainstream's. I guess that it's kind of, unfortunately, it got that rep for fanfiction being bad, and I'm like...
that was where My Immortal came from.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Any of you
Everybody in any fandom has heard of My Immortal.
If any of you have not read My Immortal, I'd say if you want to bring a bottle of alcohol, and it will be an entertaining read.
Every time you hear, was it the word creamy white... and then, if you hear the phrase "and then," you'd be dead of alcoholic poisoning by the second paragraph.
Oh.
But yeah, My Immortal was special. I think that Brownydom is kind of getting the same kind of brunt now from the media that Harry Potter fandom did, because it's quite how can I put this? It's quite visible, and because it's a fandom, it's a niche fandom thing that is getting mainstream attention.
Oh yeah, and not to mention, I'm not new to the news thing. I mean, I've always been lurking around the furry fandom too, and they've gotten a lot of blunt too. And it's just unfortunate that both these fandoms have gotten such flack when they have a lot of good people in it. It's just unfortunate that it just takes one person to make a butt out of themselves on the net, and then it labels the whole fandom. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that definitely keeps happening with brownies. Yeah, this strange word, neckbeard. That I genuinely did not know what one was for the longest time, and when I went and looked it up, the actual definition was somewhat underwhelming. Neckbeard, a beard that grows on the neck. Okay, thanks.
Oh, it's very common in tech. It's very common, and it's because it's always it always feeds into that stereotype of a tech guy being and I'm guilty of this sometimes too when I go on these coding binges, of a guy who hasn't showered. He's very messy, he's very ungroomed, very messy, letting his beard grow out, not shaving. This whole guy who's so immersed with his own little world, he can't accept the outer world and stuff like that. That's kind of unfortunately fed into the brony fandom a little bit with, like, oh no, we'll just use that stereotype on these guys here. And I'm like, oh, that's just such a disservice, man.
Because everybody happens to be that horrible, awful thing that you can't possibly make fun of. They're normal.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, how dare they? How dare they not be some walking absolute stereotypes of the media has all their job done for them?
You mean they're not a bunch of crazies in these like pony material? No, they're just normal people who just have a hobby.
I went to Buck. Actually, there are a couple of crazy people who wear pony material. I know, because I was chasing around trying to get the picture, so I was the crazy chasing the crazies.
Oh, you're going to get that with any fandom. You're always going to get crazies.
I said before, I was in Final Fantasy fandom. You have not lived until you've seen somebody try to get the Sephiroth sword or the Buster Blade out of their car. I once saw there was a mini Comic-Con around where I live in the UK, and they had got this outfit. I was searching for a word then. They got this outfit sorted, and they'd made a Buster sword out of cardboard and papier-mâché. Hello, Suki. Sorry, Suki's just overheating under her blanket. There we go. You okay now? Okay. They made this out of cardboard and papier-mâché, and it was too heavy to lift. So he was trying to, because he'd put chicken wire underneath to try and keep the size of it. And I don't know what he must have used, like concrete instead of flour. But when he was trying to pick it up and hold it over his shoulder, the tip of it was so heavy that it leaned back and he started to fall, and then it just went whoosh and broke. So his Buster sword was a Buster broken. It was more of a Buster L.
I always say that, I always say this to cosplayers, you always want to adapt your stuff so that way it's reasonable. I mean, it always runs into, the anime tropes of the overly large swords and overly eccentric weapons, and I'm like, cut it down to realism so that way you can still have a cool weapon, but it doesn't need to be this ridiculous hunk of paper mache and flour. Otherwise, you're just going to be having a bad time.
That said, at Buck last year, I think it was Warhammer, there was one chap walking around and he had adapted a Warhammer costume into a Rainbow Dash version of it, and it was so tremendously amazing. I think there's pictures of him somewhere online. If I can find them, I will put them in the description. But the Lost Narrator and Riva, Brony and I we were in the hall watching the cosplay competition, and we'd seen him around, and we were waiting for him to get up on stage, and when he came to his point, he couldn't get up the steps because he couldn't bend his legs enough. So he had to walk down the aisle for everybody to see his costume.
Nice.
Are you now too cold, are you? So you've gone from being too hot to too cold. Okay. Fickle dog.
Oh, don't worry. We have to take care of up to 5 dogs at our place sometimes, so it gets crazy.
I thought we were for 2.
Yeah, we have our pug Norton, our big lab Callie, then we have 3 Boston Terriers to watch over after that.
Oh, they all sound adorable.
Oh yeah, Boston Terriers are awesome. If you ever want a little dog that's cute but manageable, Boston Terriers are fun dogs to have.
I've always quite liked the look of Cairn Terriers, actually. Although we're getting off topic. I should just
anyway.
stick with Suki and my farty dog and move back to ponies.
Yeah, fair enough.
Although we are going to have to draw it to a close soon.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That.
This is becoming a habit. I was recording with Goombasa the other day, and we managed to talk for close to 50 minutes about Flash Sentry. I didn't even know there was 50 minutes worth of stuff to say about Flash Sentry, but we managed. So this is becoming a theme of these podcasts. Just come on and we'll talk shit for 50 minutes.
I say it's always a fun thing. I mean, it's always a good way of just getting out of the scripted elements and just have a little shoot the shit and have some fun.
Yeah. I mean, I love being on Heroic Review. We're all so analytical, and it's so fun, and it's so challenging. I'm forever trying to keep up with some of the scarily intelligent people on there. I mean, Deadly Rage and Brain by Saucepans and Goombas are, oh my god, these people are so clever. And I do genuinely still going, okay, I can do this. I deserve to be there. It's my fucking channel.
Oh, don't worry, I'm the same way, where I'm just like, oh god, psych myself up, you can do this, you're awesome, sort of.
Sort of, maybe, on some days with the wind in the right direction. But yeah.
Yeah, I always say that, fandoms will be fandoms, and, there will be plenty more after the Brony fandom, and I'm always curious to see how, when the show will eventually wrap up, how the fandom will progress, if it'll continue in size, or if it'll become its own thing. I'm interested to see how that will happen.
Yeah, I am actually, that, because this is not the same way as me, I presume, that because this is not my first dinner dance with fandoms, I've seen fandoms end and I've moved on. This is the first time I've been in a fandom this elaborate, and it's the first time I've gotten this involved in stuff. But because I've got those past experiences, the idea of the fandom ending, while sad, isn't devastating to me. Because I know there will be life after Bronies. It is a heartbreaking notion, because I've made so many good friends with this, and I wouldn't have had the courage to do any of the voice acting and things that I've learned to do in Bronydom, that I wouldn't have had the courage before. But there are a lot of people for whom this is their first fandom. And if they ever move on and they find that other fandoms are much quieter and aren't this loud or elaborate or visible, that they aren't this impressive, I think people are going to be really disappointed. And that's a real shame, because other fandoms are just as good, but in quieter ways.
I think it's always going to be that we really did set a standard regarding towards just the huge number of volume of artwork and creativity we have strived from pastel-colored ponies. And who would have thought several years ago that it would be pastel-colored ponies in a reboot of formerly a very feminine-driven show would be considered this huge number of fans that would grow into this magnificent melting pot of ideas.
And then this dedication, and I just can't get past this get over this idea of the creativity, the things that this fandom has done that no other fandom thought of. I mean, probably have thought of them, but not on the scale that the Pony fandom has. Things like full cast audio productions, full fan animations with voice acting, or little things like like you said, the amount of fan art that comes out of it. The fact that Equestria Daily can habitually have up to 20 plus images every day, and they're all brand new and really good every day. The huge amount of fan fiction, the huge amount of analysis of the show and of fan fiction, and even just the little quirky things like being able to play a song from the show on all these floppy disk things. Yeah.
Most likely a flash drive these days, but depends on your preference.
I've seen these videos of people have set up old floppy disk drives and they tap out the tune of a song.
Oh yeah. I've seen that. It's always really impressive. I'm always impressed with technology regarding towards what people can do with old tech, and it's amazing what people can do with it. Example, I think you'd want to. I'll have to link you to some stuff later after this. An artist called Jack Conti, who has a few videos, like dubstep techno artist who does all this robotic stuff and full-on sets in his music videos, and they're all fully made just by him and his friends and a camera.
Wow.
And I'm just like, it blows my mind just to create. When someone is driven to be creative, to create something, it is amazing the amount of effort that these people will go to. And I'm just like, my God. I mean, for all the flack maybe shows like Snowdrop did, I'm always blown away that this is fan animated, and this is the amount of time.
Double Rainbow got a lot of flack.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that was so impressive.
I think it was just. I thought it was just always.
A few people were getting a bit spoiled. That's the thing that made me wonder if they get out of this fandom and into another, they're going to be disappointed, because if they're going to act spoiled about getting a huge fan-made episode because it wasn't exactly what they expected it to be, if they're going to be ungrateful and resentful about that, they're going to be disappointed when they get to other fandoms where they're just going to get told to fuck off.
I think that's what I think would be a good mindset for people to go in with. I'm not going to say like your mindset should be this. I'm just going to say a healthy mindset would be to go in with don't go in with expectations. Just go with the flow and just enjoy the ride and just see where it'll take you.
And that's the approach we've had to the hiatus. Just to bring this all nice backly. No.
Full circle.
Cleveland, not English. English words are hard. We've come full circle back to the idea of the hiatus, that we all have ridden this wave of self-generated prosumer content that we didn't have for a year. We've not had the show. We've had a movie, which I still haven't seen. We've had a movie, we've had a couple of novels and the comic series, but we haven't actually had the show that brought us all to this. But we've kept going, and the fandom, I would say, is probably stronger than ever. With the amount of stuff that's being churned out by this fandom every day, and all the friendships and the people who have found each other from it, I would say that we've done pretty damn well. I
always say this. If we could survive 4chan and make 4chan, of all people, known as the butthole of the internet.
If the internet was going to have an enema, they'd put the tube in 4chan.
That's being polite, but yeah, I love you guys at 4chan. I mean, you guys keep going being your insane selves. I don't mean to bash you guys if I'm coming off of that, but keep doing what you do.
We know that you hate us, and we know that. Well, actually, we don't know. I don't know you hate us. I've never really gone there. Most I did once was go in and observe a Cockney-tavia thing being written because Wooten wanted me to read it. Holy shit! And 4chaners, yes. At some point, yes, from /MLP board, at some point I will be reading a Cockney-tavia script, but never one with the word shag in it. So stop putting that in there.
I think I would recommend to you to check out the Tales from 4chan to get a bite-sized glimpse into the 4chan culture, because it is so. And I'm just like, my God, this is insane, but I'm loving this crazy ride. So, and not to mention, oh man, the crazy stories you'll get out of different communities. Like, I could tell you stories for hours with the pro wrestling community if you're ever interested, because it's amazing what that. I guess I'm supposed to call it fandom, but it's always been more of an active discussion with that fandom. But anyway.
The analysis community could say that as well within Braden.
Oh yeah. I always say that the bronies are always been focused on artwork, and it's always been that creative drive.
Yeah,
I always say that
self-expression. These pastel-coloured ponies have all given us an outlet to express ourselves in ways that we wouldn't ordinarily have done.
I say it's always a good thing because, to express yourself, to let yourself be known, and take that chance. Because, life is always full of what you will regret the most in life is what you haven't done because you were too afraid to take a chance. But you feel better because you did and you took it. And I'm so glad I decided to say screw it, screw what society is telling me, and jump into this fandom and just have fun.
Yeah.
That's all I care about at the end of the day. Just enjoy myself and just laugh at all the crazy antics we're always up to.
Yep, and I'm glad that I didn't let the people who told me to fuck off actually make me fuck off. So all of you who tried to make me fuck off, ha 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 ha! 41,000 subscribers, they're all wonderful people, and you are still ugly assholes. Respect. And with that, I'm gonna have to call it quits here. So, thank you very much. This has been LO23, whose name I mispronounced at the very beginning and called him Low23, and he's been very nice for not telling me off at the beginning, because if only ever seen it written down.
Fine. That's fine.
I very nearly called you by your real name at some point, because it's written on your Skype screen.
Oh, it's fine. You can either refer to me either or. That's fine.
Anyway, thank you very much for indulging me and talking about the hiatus and Live and Dead fandoms and a fuck ton of other stuff in between. And I hope you've had fun here.
Oh yeah, it's been quite a crazy conversation, and I always enjoy these Skype calls with just random people just going on for hours. I mean, heck, with my friend Logan, we're always going into like 4-hour-long conversations of like just. Oh yeah, he goes. I've had conversations with my friend Ohop where it goes to like we're talking like almost all night, and it's like 3 a.m. I'm just like, whoa! I did not know time passed that fast.
yeah, I know that. The Riva Brony and I, or the Lost Racer and Goodyear Serenade and I. Yeah, last weekend, I went till just past 3 a.m. UK time, and Goody was very nice because I fell asleep on the call with him. And he could hear me snoring, and he could hear Suki coming and waking me up. And he didn't say anything, he just posted it on Twitter afterwards.
But anyway,
we're gonna have to call it quits. Right, so thank you. Thank you very much then. I was gonna call you your real name again. Thank you very much, LO23. And say bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have fun and brony on.